So people have been telling me that I've been swearing too much because of some bitch or some Hey, I didn't even swear that time! Is this censored by 4Kids TV or something? Because let me tell you, I'm absolutely fine with that! What would the children want me to cover? Pokemon. Of course it would be. Okay, so a small bit of context. Dobbs and Trickiwi are two PokeTubers who decided to make a top 10 zombie Pokemon list. That's basically all you need to know. Also, gonna be skipping their... Are you kidding me? I didn't even
Guys, I'm so angry. Can you tell I'm angry because of my voice? Grrr.
There's a lot of Pokemon who have died in the games and in the anime, so obviously there's a few spoilers in this video. There's a few Pokemon that have come back from the dead, control the dead, or even have qualities that resemble zombie-like creatures from other video games and media. Today, Dobbs and I are going to be covering them, so let's get spooky and begin.
Starting off this list, we have Ororicario Sensu Style.
Well, it didn't take long for us to break the criteria now, didn't it? Let's hear your reasoning, Dobbs.
Now, even though this top 10 is mainly about zombie Pokemon, we wanted to start this video off with a twist. Ororicario Sensu Style isn't a zombie itself, but rather has the ability to summon the dead from the ground. According to his Pokedex entries, Ororicario summons the dead with his dreamy dancing and has the ability to send the minds and hearts of his enemies to another world. So basically, this description is saying that this ghost-type Pokemon is a necromancer.
Dobbs, Tricky, read the title of your video. Top 10 Zombies in Pokemon. Also, you saying that you guys wanted to talk about Pokemon Zombies specifically as well, has this mon being here in the list completely ruins everything about your video for the most part. Oh my god, this is gonna become a recurring theme, isn't it?
Which is something that I've always wanted to see in Pokemon. Unfortunately though, this style of Ororicario doesn't have a clear origin. We know these birds are based on the Hawaiian honey creepers, but what explains the zombie summoning powers? And even after countless hours of going through Japanese mythology, we couldn't really find any creatures that summon the dead with Sensu fan dancing. Let us know in the comments on what you think Ororicario Sensu Style is based on. We're really curious to see what you think.
Dobbs, this literally has nothing to do with anything. I get that you're trying to give out details about the mon, but the thing is that none of us is actually supporting any details as to how this mon is supposed to be a zombie. Are we really just going to ignore this?
Moving on to number 9, we have Kabutops and Aerodactyl from Pokemon Heroes.
The fossil Pokemon. This is gonna be interesting, isn't it?
There's your warning. Pokemon Heroes is a film that takes place in the Italian-styled city of Altamar, surrounded by water, and this beautiful place is protected by the dragon twins, Latias and Latios. I would like one for my home. For some odd reason, the citizens of Altamar created a godlike machine to protect the city if disaster ever occurred, but they never really had to use it, so it was just kind of sitting there. This machine can be powered only by the Soul Dew, which is a pretty ball thing that contains a soul of a Latios. This all-powerful machine is just chilling in a museum with barely any security whatsoever. No security lasers, not even an army of Pokemon to protect it. I sense a plot. Anyways, the inevitable happens. Two evil chicks pop up, they steal the Soul Dew, they steal Latios, and then they go to the museum wanting to take control over this machine. This thing could literally bend reality, so I don't know why they don't have any security for this thing.
Because it was a legend.
It can make random gate things spawn out of nowhere. You can control water to your full will, and then apparently it could bring dead things back to life. Why do they have a Jesus machine just chilling in the public? What? With the power of the machine, they bring back Aerodactyl and Kabutops to wreak havoc on the city and to retrieve Latias. Both of them have those creepy lifeless eyes. They're freaking creepy looking. In the Pokemon games, obviously you could bring fossil Pokemon back to life, so in a way, technically all fossil Pokemon are zombies.
No, considering the fact that zombies, by definition, is a corpse said to be revived by witchcraft, especially in certain African and Caribbean religions. With this, we can also account for the possible idea of undead, which is indeed a synonym for zombie, where technically they are dead, but they are still animate. Or if we're to go with the last synonym being living dead, it's a reanimated corpse that has been turned into creatures capable of movement, but not rational thought. Zombies. Now, want to know what the actual issue is here? The fact that they are actually able to have some sense of rational thought as they're hunting down certain Pokemon and are technically using actual moves within the movie as shown by your footage earlier, Trickiwi. Now, even if your definition of zombie was basically coming back to life after dying, even number 10 wouldn't work in your favor, considering the fact that the mon could only be considered to be a necromancer, which is seeing that it reanimates the dead. Also, this isn't to mention that you're using two 2 Pokemon for one spot in the list, which is a major problem considering the fact that this is supposed to talk about individual Pokemon, and you don't know various of one part. Also, before someone decides to bring up the fact that they were both within the same part where they were both revived by the same people, well, here's one thing. This still doesn't excuse the fact that these Pokemon are still breaking the criteria of the list. And hell, their lack of criteria actually doesn't help them in this instance too, as they don't actually mention anything about being allowed to have any tie in any case as well, or having multiple Pokemon in one spot.
Coming in at number 8, we have Psyduck from the Pokemon manga. Now, one of the reasons why I love the Pokemon Adventures manga so much is because it's probably one of the most violent adaptations of the Pokemon world.
Woo! Violence, the thing that rednecks use to discipline their wives!
I mean, this is the same manga that shattered a frozen Magmar into pieces and even sliced an Arbok in half. So seeing zombies in one of the chapters is just another day in the world of the Pokemon Adventures. Now, in chapter 13 of the first volume, Red arrives to the notorious Lavender Town for the first time, and after stepping into the haunted tower, Red finds out that a wretched Ghastly has taken control of dead Pokemon and turned them into zombies. And it wasn't just a few Pokemon that were reanimated, but rather a horde of these undead creatures.
So, possession.
Which is something that's pretty awesome to see, but it also sparks a theory. What if this Ghastly's powers was an inspiration for Oricario's abilities? Think about it. It was stated on the Pokemon website that the Sensu-style Oricario dance reminded Kanto natives of their homeland. Not to mention that the purple nectar is basically a video game adaptation of the real-life Lavender Flower, and that Oricario Sensu-style is a ghost-type Pokemon. It's kind of a stretch, but still pretty fun to think about.
All of the connections.
Are you even talking about this? Legit, how does this support anything with your Psyduck entry and your first entry? Legit, if this was like, oh hey guys, it walks around like a zombie and just has a thirst for brains with the lack of power of using its own like it's a mon mentioned earlier, then sure, I gladly give it to you, but as far as I'm concerned, you are both basically zombies with the topic at hand. My life. And sure, this could just be adding extra details or information, or hey, maybe getting the viewership to participate in a way. However, the way that this is all set up doesn't actually add much to your original discussion at hand otherwise.
At number 7, we have Entei, Suicune, and Raikou.
It's Raikou, you funny person of the humankind!
Guys, I'm so angry. Can you tell I'm angry because of my voice? Grrr.
Standing in at number 6, we have Wobbuffet. Now, this enduring Pokemon has always been one of the most mystifying creatures in the Pokemon world, and there's a good reason for that. You see, according to his Pokedex entries, Wobbuffet goes through every measure to protect and hide its mysterious tail, and if somehow the opposing Pokemon grabs a hold of it, Wobbuffet will use Destiny Bond to take the opponent to another dimension. Now, we've all heard of the infamous theory that suggests that Wobbuffet's inflatable body is just a decoy, and that the real Wobbuffet is actually the small black tail.
So we're going off of the theory again. You understand that unless if you have any concrete evidence that this is indeed the case and is in the canon, you otherwise got nothing. This is as credible as, oh, this is true because game theory told me so. Also, to come up with a possible countermeasure to what you're saying, Wobbuffet's little tail could actually be its weak spot, or perhaps could be a form of, well, brain, where everything goes on. Now yes, this is indeed a theory being used to try and attack another theory, but here's the thing. If you're going to start using theories to try and back up your claims, I'm at least going to look into them. Also, let's even have another way to challenge your theory with another one. The Pokédex might have been written by children, considering the fact that the Pokédex at times will straight up lie about Pokemon and their power overall. As an example, Magikarp being an underpowered Pokemon that can jump high on rare occasions but never more than 7 feet. To then say in the first entry for the Mon, however, in the black and white entries of the Pokédex it says that it can leap over mountains. Now mountains, no matter what, have to be 1,000 plus feet tall to be considered a mountain, and anything smaller than that is considered a hill. Or perhaps the first entry of Banette saying that an abandoned plush doll became its Pokemon, and they are said to be living in garbage dumps to wander and try to find the children that threw them away. And with this here is actually incorrect due to the fact that Banette is actually just the evolved form of Shuppet as well, meaning that this entry is false at best and a legend at worst. Then of course there's Blastoise with their black and white entry saying that the jets of water shot through the cannons on its shell can go through thick steel, and sure, technology today can do that, but the levels that is required to do that needs to have water shoot at Mach 3 speeds! And with this, we see that any mon that gets shot with this dual cannon mix on its back seems that it'll just faint at most as well. Because, you know, f*** science. Then, of course, we can point to Cargo's entry, where it says that its internal body temperature is around 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit, where in the anime they had the mon being able to be hugged. Now, yes, someone can indeed bring up the counter as to how Ash tried riding a Ponyta once, and it ended up burning him because Ponyta didn't trust him, and then when he tried riding the Ponyta again, he ended up actually being able to not be burned by the flames. However, here's the thing, that was only applied to the flames, not its internal body temperature. So what you're going off of here, Dobbs, is a Pokemon theory that doesn't prove anything at best, and a blatant cop-out of an entry at worst of you being lazy in regards to this said thing. Still, the main point that I'm trying to get across here is that if you're going to try and use a fan theory to justify your listing for this mon when we're talking about the Pokemon within the actual games, animes, mangas, and whatever you're trying to, you know, need, when you're going to be needing infallible proof for that. And using the Pokedex entries as well when they have been seen as inconsistent and contradictory at best, it only takes away from all forms of validation with what you had in the first place. I just used your own source against you. Well done.
And after going through his Pokedex entries and studying its behavior, I think this theory is pretty spot on. But there's more to Wobbuffet than just his body being a decoy. I'm talking about, what if the blue inflatable body is actually the corpse of an unknown Pokemon? I mean, this isn't like Banette, which is a possessed plush doll. Wobbuffet's decoy body has a tongue and empty eye sockets. It's almost like the small shy tail took control of a dead Pokemon and now is using his body like an inflatable balloon.
Actually, when reading its Pokemon Gold entry, it said that it was always squinting, so it could always be, you know, trying to block out the sunlight. And, well, seeing as you don't really seem to take that into account, I think the best I could really say is that you actually did look into your actual sources here. And, you know, not a fan theory.
It's an interesting theory, but it's safe to say that there's more to Wobbuffet than meets the eye.
I don't like you.
Let us know in the comments on what you think.
At number 5, we have Sedinja, the lovely ghost bug Pokemon. Dobbs and I had to draw a line somewhere so we didn't get ghost Pokemon and zombie Pokemon confused. Ghosts are spirits that don't have physical solid forms, while zombies are dead bodies that become reanimated. So technically Sedinja is a zombie and not a spirit since it is a shell of its original form.
Well, if that's really the definition that you want to go by, your 10th entry doesn't work, your Psyduck entry still doesn't work, and your previous entry doesn't work either. Still, if I really need to play with this mental gymnastics, and I guess I'll go with both definitions, the actual one and the one that you guys decide to make up for whatever reason. Also, to make this complaint go even further, why is it that you guys now decide to lay down the criteria in the middle of the list? The reason why I ask is because when it comes to this entire thing, you guys don't seem to have any real form of, well, structure. Also, if I'm to really continue on with this complaint, again, I know that it's not required to work with your co-op partner in a co-op all the time, but really, this here has no chemistry aside from the beginning part.
Hello everyone, this is Tricky and welcome back to another video. Today I'm bringing back a familiar face to the channel, but I'm forcing him against his will to do scary video topics. Not really, it was actually his idea.
Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Dobbs here, and yeah, Tricky has me held hostage in her closet.
I don't know what he's talking about.
And I'm hungry.
Shh, be quiet.
Help me.
Quiet.
This here just kinda seems bland and, well, disjointed and not structured properly to say the worst. Although I'm pretty sure that your main demographic target is towards children, but the thing is that this here doesn't excuse you from the fact that you have goddamn contradictions in your list. But hey, I'll give you guys one thing. You guys don't— Wait, no.
You could get this Pokemon by evolving your Nincada, but you have to leave an extra space in your party before you evolve it into a Ninjask at level 20. Once it evolves, then you could have a Ninjask and its old body in your party. Sedinja possesses no internal organs and doesn't breathe. Its shell is pretty hard, so it's basically incapable of actual movement besides floating around very creepily. If you get curious and decide to look into the hole in between its wings, it will steal your soul. So don't do that. This is a bug shell that came back to life, basically a bug zombie thing with a cute halo thing, and it will steal your soul. Rip the dream.
Then that's not a zombie then. Considering the fact that the mon is actually hollow, and from what we're able to gather with this information at hand, we can easily make the conclusion that the mon shell is actually just possessed by some ghost-type Pokemon. Actually, even looking through the Pokedex entries, anime, games, and mangas, I actually found no instance of Shedinja being able to move any more than some mere floating, unless if it was some Pokemon move. Along with this, the shell isn't even alive either as well, as the shell is merely a skin of something, you know. Essentially what you're saying is, what is a knight when he gets out of his armor and then the ghost possesses it, then the suit of armor is now a zombie due to the fact that it's now able to move around even though it doesn't breathe or move around aside from, you know, floating. Your own criteria doesn't work here. The actual definition doesn't work here. Are you two even trying?
Creeping in at number 4, we have Buried Alive.
Choose your next words very carefully.
Now, back in the beta stages of Pokemon Red and Green, a rumored final boss was said to appear on top of the Pokemon Tower. How the myth was told was that if the player clicked on the gravestone on the final floor, a zombie-like NPC would appear and challenge you to a battle. During this disturbing battle, the player would face against a level 94 Muk that had the ability to turn invisible, a level 90 Gengar with the move Nightshade, and finally 2 level 101 White Hands that were basically invincible. Now, after several years and many advances in online forums, Pokemon fans came to learn that this rumor was only a conspiracy theory and was never proven to be true. But after the release of the animated miniseries called Pokemon Origins, Pokemon fans around the world started to wonder if this zombified trainer was actually real. Because during the second episode of Pokemon Origins, during the Lavender Town arc, Red is seen with a ghost-like hand on his left shoulder while talking to other trainers in the Pokemon Center.
So basically, you just confirmed that was just a theory, and not even confirmed, but you know, just an Easter egg within the series to try and validate what you're saying. Look, Dobbs and Dumber, if you're going to break your own rules for your list, at least try and make it difficult for me to debunk.
At number 3, we have AZ's Fluet, aka the Eternal Flower Fluet, aka the very fancy Fluet. As covered in the plot for Pokemon X and Y, a huge war erupted in the Kalos region 3,000 years prior to the events of the actual games. I actually wish that there was gameplay that kind of revolved around this war because it's actually super interesting. AZ was the king of Kalos, but unfortunately his lovely beloved Floette was killed during the war. After he discovered her body, he went into an extreme state of depression. In desperation, he created a device to bring back his Floette from death. Somehow it worked, but the guy was already too far gone and he used the same machine as a weapon of destruction. Basically, the dude went completely psycho, killed everyone, and then ended the war. His Floette witnessed everything. Floette was extremely disgusted by his actions and felt ashamed that so many lives were taken just because of her, so she peaced out and left. 3,000 years later, they finally reunited and made up. I think the reason why they're still living is because of that machine, and it gives some kind of eternal life or something, but they didn't really go into full detail about it. So yeah, Floette is technically a zombie. Of course, it's still very, very cute, and it's not decomposing or anything like that, but it did in fact die and come back to life. I guess it's nice that she finally forgave her trainer for killing everyone. Such a sweet story.
No, by your definition kinda, but by the actual definitions, no. It is not a zombie considering the fact that it's still able to have rational thought as you showed earlier. Yeah, I know I haven't challenged your definition of zombie when it first came up, but your bare bones at best description doesn't even work in this instance considering the fact that revival doesn't mean living dead. I don't feel the need to explain this as I already did earlier. But to explain it simply, they are not zombie. You are.
Traveling in at number 2, we have Ash from the Pokemon anime.
I think I'm mad.
Now, Ash Ketchum has always been one of the most lovable characters in the Pokemon anime, but it seems that TV Tokyo has a different opinion because they've killed Ash off more times than Goku has from Dragon Ball Z.
Okay, now you decide to make this clear? Now you do! Okay, I get that when it comes to your idea of just talking about things that died then came back to life, becoming the living dead, but you now decide to bring this up? You're now deciding to bring up this crucial piece of, you know, criteria at the number 2 entry. What was I saying earlier about this seeming like it was completely disjointed and unorganized? If it was the Shedinja part that didn't prove this, it's right here. Look, when it comes to your top 10 list, you should be able to lay down the criteria right away at the beginning of the video, so that way you don't need this type of stuff later on. However, here's another thing that I want to bring up. If you're having a list that's kind of speaking for itself with criteria like top 10 colors I like, then you really don't need to elaborate as what the hell you're even talking about, as well, it speaks for itself. However, when you mess with the definitions or need a form of elaboration as to what you're talking about, you need to make this clear as to what you're talking about from the beginning. Look, I know, I get it. This isn't really required for most videos, but the thing is that if you're going to be needing further elaboration, I think it would be best for you to put it at the beginning so that way you don't have these types of problems in the future. Then, as for the duo's final entry, I don't care much debating considering the fact that it's essentially a form of fungi that takes over the mind of the mon and I'd just be repeating myself at that point. So it's finally time for my final thoughts. When it comes to this entire list, it bugs me to obnoxious degrees, considering the fact that you both have no idea as to how the hell a top 10 list seems to work in this structure, criteria, and let alone consistency. I guess I would have tossed the complaint of the incorrect definition of zombie to the side if you guys decide to stick to that into your entire list. Still, the lack of chemistry was indeed, well, kind of bothersome, and just overall, the presentation seemed half-hearted at best where it made me want to in a to, and I'll let everyone else fill in those blanks.